important part in the world. Strategies and innovation water saving technology for developing countries by wastewater reuse. Now actually, considering the wastewater reusing process, the developing countries found difficulties in implementing strategies because we are taking technology from developed countries what will not cater to local requirements. Therefore, practically we have the experience how we can adapt the international solutions into local solutions. Therefore, I am doing that part more concernedly because as the chairman of Water Resource Board in Sri Lanka. Therefore, first I will be going based on my slides. I don't want to repeat everything. You can go through my slides. Introduction. Water scarcity and water pollution are crucial issues in today's world. One of the ways to reduce the impact of water scarcity and pollution is expand water and wastewater reuse. The increasing scarcity of water in the world, along with rapid population increase in urban areas, gives rise to concern about appropriate water management practices. Further, there is a growing awareness of impact of sewage contamination on river and lakes. Therefore, wastewater treatment and reuse deserves greater emphasis in the world today. I think this is just a basic introduction you can find anywhere in the world, but the main focus on today's our session is how we can adapt these things into the developing countries. Because we have witnessed, you can go through this map and identify how the developed countries are utilizing their technologies to reuse and manage the wastewater. Unfortunately, in developing countries, it is less. Because now only we have been able to identify the wastewater reusing process or management is highly required for developing countries. The present status in developing countries, these are important facts because these are the main things that we are facing at the moment. Effective wastewater management is well established in developed countries, but is still limited in developing countries. As I said, you know why it is limited in developing countries. In most developing countries, many people lack access to water and sanitation services. As example, in northern part in Sri Lanka, close to India, we are experiencing the same because sanitation facilities are very poor and their wastewater management is zero at the time of 2012. Now we have been able to implement a proper mechanism to overcome the issues. The collection and conveyance of wastewater out of urban areas is not yet service provided to all the population. Adequate treatment is provided only to small portion of the collected wastewater. I think you all knows the situation. In slums and peri-urban areas throughout the world, it is common to see raw wastewater flowing in the street. The inadequate water and sanitation service is main cause of disease in developing countries. And the next step, why we need wastewater treatment? I think you all know there are professors, experts more than me. They have good ideas on what the situation we are facing at the moment. But as the chairman of Water Resource Board, practically I have been used to coordinate with the decision makers and the model makers together for a successful outcome. That's why I prefer to participate in this conference. Why we need a wastewater treatment? Water demand is ever increasing rapidly across the world within continuous urbanization, expanding of agriculture or industrialization. Increases water availability and prevents environmental pollution. The sewage contamination of lakes, rivers and domestic water bodies has reached to an alarming levels which perturbed on the treatment operation in water supply as well as impact on health and the environment degradation as overall. Why innovation wastewater treatment methodology, especially on developing countries? That is the key part of my keynote. Now actually we know there are certain methodologies in the world, but the problem is, are we going to take the exact copycat model to our countries, or we are going to innovate a new solution with that technology? The population growth will occur mainly in developing countries. You know why I have mentioned from rural to urban areas will take place, and with that financial difficulties. Unless a new innovation strategy is adopted and affordable wastewater treatment opinions are used, the coverage of non-treated urban areas within the cities of developing countries would be steadily increased. And strategy should be appropriate wastewater treatment technology which is simple to operate and low cost in investment and O&M. You know how that is the key thing, low cost investment. Because financially also developing countries facing lot of difficulties to allocate their budgeting funds to form treatment plants and everything. Therefore, we have to, as technical people, we have to find a solution with low budgeting. Then only we can work with the government and the policies. Otherwise, whatever the solutions we will give, it will in vain, because we are utilizing more funds from our countries, and at last the maintenance cost is very high and we are losing the project. Now, a few examples, wastewater treatment in developing countries. You all may know the treatment systems in developing countries. The uncontrolled growth in urban areas resulting difficult in planning and expansion of water and sewage systems and expensive. In addition, many of those moving to city have low income, making it difficult to pay for any water system upgrades. Requirement of innovation treatment management system. Urban wastewater treatment has received less attention compared to water supply and treatment. Water scarcity and water pollution pose a critical challenge in the many developing countries. The current urban wastewater management system is a linear treatment system that is based on disposal. This traditional system needs to be transformed into a sustainable, where the conservation of water and nutrient resources should be maintained. I think I have found few problems of conventional centralized sanitation systems. The present conventional centralized system flushes pathogenic bacteria out of the residential area using large amount of water and often combines the domestic wastewater with rainwater, causing the flow of large volumes of pathogenic wastewater. In fact, the conventional sanitation system simply transforms a concentrated domestic health problem into a diffuse health problem for entire settlement and for region. This is happening today in the developing countries. You know, CKDU problems and everything coming out of this thing. Problem of conventional centralized treatment systems. Many treatment systems in developing countries are unsustainable and unuseful since copycat from Western treatment systems without considering the appropriateness of technology for the culture, land and climate. This is what I am mentioning throughout in my session. Most abandoned due to high cost of running that we are witnessing now in our country also. Conventional system may technologically inadequate to handle the locally produced sewage. Industrial effluent are major source of toxins for groundwater, because in my organization as a government department, we are more focused on the groundwater also. Mega industrial parks requires an implant waste segregation and pre-treatments in lieu of traditional central treatment of the combined parks wastewater. I think you can read through. I am also guiding you because what I have to say I have printed in the slides. Wastewater indirect reuse. The treated or untreated water influence from urban areas and partly treated industrial influence is generally discarded and discharged into natural waterways, which undergoing natural purification, self-purification within the stream. These water sources are abstracted again, and such indirect reuse is common in the larger river systems. I think you have gone through how it works and what are the benefits we are getting through the natural ways. Due to the human activities, we are obstructing those paths, and then only we are facing the current situation. Wastewater indirect reuse. Now that is the main theme we are speaking. However, all natural systems are not capable to undergo self-purification of the effluent volumes dumped on. Therefore, the treatment on wastewater is essential in most of the countries where the natural systems are facing various external pressures. After that, I have showing you a typical river basin in Sri Lanka. How this had an animation, I think with the mailing I lost the animation. How the Sri Lankan typical river basin. Not only in Sri Lanka, I think subcontinental countries also have the same features in the river basin. This I have included to get an idea how the natural waterways are flowing and how we are obstructing them. Likewise, innovation treatment management system. The traditional linear treatment, disposal based linear system must be transformed into a cyclical treatment to promote the conservation of water and nutrient resources. Cost effective and environmentally sound practices of sludge application on agriculture land remediate the conflict between agriculture and domestic use of scarce water resources. The industrial influence are major source of toxin for groundwater. Mega industrial parks requires and plant waste segregation and pre-treatments in lieu of traditional central treatment of combined parks wastewater. I think you can get the idea behind that slide. Treatment management system. These are the most popular treatment systems. Preliminary treatment by rotating microscreens, vortex grit chambers, lagoons treatment, anaerobic, facultative and polishing, including recent development in improving lagoons performance, anaerobic treatment process of various types, mainly anaerobic lagoons, upflow, anaerobic sludge, blanklet, reactors and anaerobic filters and anaerobic piston reactors. Physiochemical process of various types such as chemically enhanced primary treatment, constructed wetlands, stabilization, reservoirs for wastewater reuse and other purposes, all and flow, infiltration, percolation, septic tanks, and submarine and large river outfalls. For this each system, I have a supporting document I'll give for researchers and finders who can go deeply into each and every these systems and think about own way of modeling a new technology which will suit developing countries. Innovation treatment management systems. Out of the above process, various combinations can be set up, including some simple process such as sand filtration and dissolved air flotation. Sand filtration actually in our countries also we are using more, but depending on the quality of the water, every aspect we can't use that method. One interesting combination process in the generation of influence suited for reuse in irrigation based on pre-treatment by one of the mentioned unit process followed by a stabilization reservoir. Next, I am moving on to innovation treatment management system. Developing technology should be based on specific site conditions and financial resources of individual communities. One approach to sustainability is through decentralization of the wastewater management system. Consists of several smaller units serving individual houses, clusters of houses or small communities. Black and grey water can be treated or reused separately from the hygienically more dangerous extractor. Non-centralized systems are more flexible and can adapt it easily to local conditions of the urban area as well as grow with the community its population. These are the systems. This approach leads to treatment and reuse of water, nutrients and byproducts of the technology. For example, energy, sludge and mineralized nutrients in the direct locations of settlement. Energy, sludge and mineralized nutrients recovery approach in a centralized treatment plant. More than this picture, you can go to the internet and find out new ways of centralized treatment plants in developed countries. Water factory nutrient factory, energy factory, all in operation in one unit. Advanced wastewater treatment plant. This is costly, but we can find out a way according to our aquifer systems and surface water systems. We can manipulate or manufacture our own methodology. Innovative treatment management system need to separate domestic industrial waste treatment to avoid being into food chain through reuse of irrigate crops or in aquaculture, special of industrial toxins. Strategies and innovation, water saving technologies for reuse of wastewater in agricultural advances can include implementation of crops, location strategies, conversion to crops with higher economic value or productivity per unit of water consumed, and adoption of alternate drought tolerant crops. Drought tolerance crops. Innovation treatment management systems. I think in India also you can find these systems. How we can use water in innovating method. Sustainable wastewater treatment systems. This also I included. We have to more focus on this area prior to designing a technical document. We have to be more focused on the saving methods, how we can use innovatively water resources. Then the treated wastewater reuse. Wastewater reuse must meet controls to reduce pathogen concentration as per WHO guidelines. That is the main guideline we are taking up. And crop restrictions specified to prevent direct exposure to those consuming uncooked crops, as well as defining application method irrigation that reduce the contact of wastewater with edible crops. Control of human exposure for workers, crop handlers, and final consumers. These are our main targeted groups, because whatever we design, we have to work with our targeted groups. Otherwise, it won't work with proper combination. The sectors of treated wastewater reuse. I think you can commonly see the structure. Wastewater reuse, how the sources are coming, and the end product, treated wastewater. Also, there is example implementation of wastewater reuse. I think this has been taken from a source. Cultural based principles on the rejection of wastewater reuse in Bahia, semi-arid region, case study. I want to just show you what is the percentage in that scenario. Strategies for implementation of wastewater reuse. We have to risk assessment before implementation, considering the health risk and quality restriction. Assessments are very key in strategies. The developer must consider the area's climate, topography, and socio-economic factors in decision of appropriate treatment systems. To successfully implement the strategies for wastewater reuse, it is vitally necessary for institutional and policy-making capacities to be improved, public awareness of related issues to be increased, and appropriate financial mechanism to be created. These are the key things in a model. We have to more focus on these things. Otherwise, it's will be a paper only. We can't implement that proposal on the ground. Strategies for implementation of wastewater reuse. The topic I am continuing. The greatest challenges in the water and sanitation sector over the next 2 decades will be the implementation of low-cost sewage treatment that will at the same time permit selective reuse of treated effluents for agricultural and industrial purpose. Sanitation system should have high levels of hygienic standards to prevent the spread of disease. This is the part now we are working on. New immigrants to cities have low income and cannot afford municipal amenities like waste disposal and sanitary functions. I think here in India also same problem is there. Finally, concluding remarks. Utilization of sewer water requires collection, treatment and use of all generated wastewater. Although reuse of wastewater is recognized in most water scarce countries, the reuse of wastewater is still very low. Indirect reuse after self-purification is not applicable and adequate to present demand of water in the world. Therefore, innovative treatment technologies are sought for effective implementation and O&M in the process to overcome the water demand by reuse. The most of the treated effluent could be reused for non-drinking uses such as washing, sanitary and agriculture. I witnessed recently one developed plant in Dubai. They are using this technology and using for plantation in the cities by adapting this methodology. Therefore, I invite all of scholars and students who are interested in this field. They can think about the strategies, how they are going to perform well by producing successful document with the combination of technology and the practical situations in our countries. These are the most important things because there are a lot of technical papers and questionnaires and answering sessions, but still we have been unable to get a good solution, which is very important, low costing system to cater developing countries. As the chairman of Water Resource Board, I have been successfully implemented several projects in Sri Lanka through our local consultation. Therefore, I know today there are a lot of doctors, professors, genius in this field. I invite all. I am not that much genius, but practically I have some knowledge in this field because we are the implementing body. And structural things we can discuss lengthier, but the main focus should be on proper modeling, proper programming and a proper technical document A to Z, how we are going to implement a proper project which will successfully end up with the needs of developing countries. Thank you very much.
Use this treated water directly for agriculture, but what will be the status of that water that we are going to use in the agriculture? Because in the agriculture there are the crops which are the cereals where we eat only the grains. Maybe probably the pollutants may not reach to the grains, but about the vegetables which we directly take, and they are mostly rich in the water, and these pollutants can reach to the leaves or the other edible parts of the vegetables that can directly go to the human beings. So before using this agricultural water, it should be properly defined what purity of this water is there. Because we are not using this water for the drinking purpose, only for that, because the quality of the water for the different purposes will be different. So even if we use a lower quality of the water for the agriculture, probably we are going to be exposed to the toxic pollutants in the water if it is not up to the mark of the drinking water. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Actually, I am not an expert on that, but my opinion is now partly treated water we are using for agriculture. But more than that, in the present, the chemicals we are using, more than effective things are in the chemicals what we are using for agriculture. Therefore, partly treated water means we know the certain effects to the crops. What sort of effect we can prevent from the partly treated water. Therefore, I think there are a lot of experts in that sort of thing. In my opinion, we can use partly treated water for agriculture. It should be there because fully treated water, if we are using for agriculture, cost is very high. In developed countries, in greenhouse methodologies, they are using partly treated water for agriculture.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, you talked about the advanced water management system, and you told that the domestic and industrial water are treated separately. If they are treated separately, then how economical is the water system is? And if they are intermixed, then how they be used and reused as a different prospects? Because if they are intermixed, then they are just treated like simply in a same way.
I have given a concept only. That's why I told you that we have to make a combination of the treatment system which will suited to our region. Depending on the financing facilities, we have to think about the system, whether we are going to separate treatment systems or we are going to make it in a one. Therefore, it is up to decision makers how they are going to implement the.
Because sir, I think that it will be more costly if we just separately treat the water system.
Yeah, but the treatment plant designing process has the availability of the cost, because how we are going to design the treatment plant and what are the parameters we are going to filter. Depending on that only the cost will differentiate.
Anybody have any questions?
See, this actually, if you are talking about this utilization of wastewater, as I said, domestic wastewater or different kind of industrial wastewater, you cannot mix the things like somebody was telling that regarding the vegetable irrigation, regarding the cereal irrigation. So depending on the quality of water, how much it is polluted, you can go for the irrigation of different crops. Say for energy plantation, you can use this domestic wastewater because there is not much pollutant there, and the soil has its own capacity to utilize it and refine it also. So for the particular purpose, solution will be particular. You cannot generalize it that every water you can use for the same purpose. So for our submission is that what the chairman and esteemed speaker was telling, the solution should be localized and particular. So that is my submission to this audience. That's all.
Sir, I think if we use the domestic water as that you are just telling that the soil that has the capacity of fertility,
of course.
Then don't you think that the odor and the smell that come from that things are just It's not good for the environment also.
See, in case of domestic wastewater, there are the water that is directly coming from your domestic uses to the drain line, and there are the water that is going as more that is of our other sea toilets and all those things. That is, you cannot mix both, and outrightly if you see there, they are not also mixing. So these two water, replacement of these two wastewater are different kind. The water that we get directly from our bathroom and even that go to drain line, you can use it for the energy plantation, high energy plantation. And this such type of water we have seen, we had a project on this regard, and we have seen that the swale, if the swale is sandy enough, and it has capacity to refine it also, and most of the water is utilized by the energy plantation, and energy plantation is not going to utilize by the directly by the people. So, but that energy plantation can be utilized to generate the energy. So that is my submission. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Please give mic to the last row. Swati, give mic to the last row. So you did the last question.
Sir, my question was that when it comes to sustainable development, how can we sustainably use the wastewater?
Normally, the sustainably wastewater using methodologies, we have to think about how we are wasting the water. Then only we can come up with a solution. Now, it is different to regions. Therefore, when we are planning a sustainable development process, with that we have to plan a proper mechanism for wastewater management. Rather than disposing them into ground or surface water to contaminate, we have to propose a proper management system with awareness process, and give a basic knowledge to the public how they can dispose wastewater in reusable method. That is the key.
Yes, sir.
We have very short period of time, so just don't ask any question that is not related to the topic.
Answer partially to her question. Like for sustainable reuse of wastewater, we can not only think about irrigation water. We can, for the development of smart cities, we can use that water for like maintaining the greenery of the city. Near the footpath or the other park area, we can use that water for irrigation purpose. Recently, I visited Hindalco in Solbhadra. They use their sewage water for maintaining the greenery in the uphill forest area. They use that water to irrigate those areas. Like we can think in that way also, not for the grain and vegetable purposes.
Yeah, like that there are a lot of examples. We can talk full day.